Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Dynamic here, and welcome back to another MLW video. Today, we have a massive video for y'all. We're going to be doing a tier list of every single player in MLW. This is something I did 2 years ago with my brother, who is joining me once again. He does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes when it comes to ideas of the video, so he knows a lot about MLW, so y'all don't have to worry about that. But yeah, today we're just going to be talking about each of these players and then ranking them. We have the S tier, which is obviously the best, all the way down to the D tier. And then the NA tier is just going to stand for non-applicable, or they just haven't played this year. And just a reminder, the recording of this video is just after the Diamondbacks Magic series, after Slate 3 and before the All-Star break. So everything here will be up to date when it is posted. We wanted to make sure we did it where there would be no games in between. So before we start, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel because we got a lot of good things coming down the line. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so the first player we're starting with is Jonah Heath, who is batting .208 on the season. He also has a home run. So in my opinion, he's been pretty efficient this season. He's a good fielder. I like him at first base. I don't think he has the ability to single-handedly win you games, but
yeah, in my opinion, I believe he's a top 3 first baseman in the league. I just think he's one of the most dependable, really good hands, really smart. I think we see the worst mistakes come just because players don't know when to get first base, when to run to second, where to field. You see a lot of players overcorrect playing first base, and I think he's just he just knows what to do. And yeah, he doesn't have the ability to win a game, but I think he has the ability to really turn the tables on a series, hit a home run, change the game, that kind of a thing. I do think he's one of the better players in the league.
Yeah, I think B tier personally, because I think he's
I would
player.
agree.
You'd agree? All right,
B.
Awesome. All right, B tier for Jonah Heath. All right, so our next player here is RJ Walgate, who has had a pretty good season so far. He has a 1.19 ERA, which is super impressive in 6 games played. Also, with that, his win-to-loss record is pretty good. It's 4-2 for a team that is 5-4. So when you play him, this team is better. They're winning most games.
Yeah, and I think another thing, or at least last time I did this was 2 years ago, that kept us from really putting him up there was his offense. And while he's not doing anything flashy, he's third on his team in on-base percentage. And yeah, he's not really the most dependable when it comes to hits, but clearly teams aren't really pitching him straight ahead because he's been able to get better offensively.
Yeah, for sure. In my opinion, I think A tier.
Yeah.
I don't think he's at the S tier yet. Still, I'm going to reserve that spot for really good 2A players.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so our next player from the Eastern Eagles is Landon Urquitas. I just interviewed him a couple days ago. Great guy, also amazing wiffle ball player. I think he's one of those players, and I said in the other video, where his progression has just been so linear in the best way possible. It's every year he continues to improve, continues to get better. The Eagles would not be in the spot they are now. They would have not swept the Wildcats if it wasn't for this guy. That's my opinion on it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think he's really launched himself into the upper echelon of offensive players. I mean, obviously, hitting over 40% is really impressive, along with 3 home runs, killing it in the slugging, and clearly he is a threat when it comes to his opponents. They do not want to give him a meatball right down the middle. He's been able to absolutely crush those. So personally, I really want to put him A, but I just don't think he's A yet.
Whoa, no, I disagree. I think he's definitely A. I think he was A last year.
No, I know he's top 5 batter, but what does he do defensively?
Defensively, okay, so here's the thing. He hasn't been playing on the field until this year, and he's doing a great job of it, in my opinion. But in my opinion, what he adds to the hitting of this team, you take Landon Urquitas away, and this team might not be a playoff team.
Okay, and yeah, now that I think about it, RJ also just does one thing really well, and the other one's fine.
Yeah.
So I guess in A, you don't necessarily need to be the best 2A player as long as you do one thing elite-wise, and that's exactly what he does.
I agree. All right, so Sean Flynn has yet to play a game this season in MLW. That's something that is very interesting. I don't know if he'd help improve this roster, but he's non-applicable for this list. All right, so our next player is Casey Bennett. He's a guy to me that has just been pretty inconsistent, especially this season. You never really know what you're going to get from him. You can have a series where he is putting the ball in play a ton, and then a series where he's just striking out every time. Also, last year, I saw some flashes in his pitching I thought was pretty impressive, but this year he's only pitched 1 game, and it was at an 11 ERA. So obviously that's not good.
So he has not really seen the plate all that much this year, compared to the rest of his team. He is second on base percentage, which I believe is one of the most important stats in this league. Just the ability to create points and runs for your team to give your team a chance. That being said, I don't really see him as a game changer. I do think he has the ability to help his team win games. So I'm not saying like he's one of those guys that's just on a team. He definitely can make plays, but he's not a B level player, and I do not think he's a D. So I think he's kind of like the definition of a C.
I agree with that 100%. All right, so the next player is Michael Shima, who was able to play a little bit in the last series he was in. I don't recall him doing too much, and the MLW website doesn't have a lot of his stats on, but he's one of those guys that I think Diamondbacks fans are pretty happy he's back. You saw the lightsaber celebration, which was pretty nostalgic, I'm guessing, for some people.
Well, I think he hasn't played enough, so put him in NA. Again, kind of almost similar to a Casey Bennett player, possibly better in the way of he's not going to take over, but he, one of those guys that can help you win.
Yeah, we just haven't seen enough from him. All right, next is Brady Pearson, one of the frontrunners for Rookie of the Year and also an All-Star this year. He has been really good for this Magic team. They need a hitter, and in my opinion, they just got pretty much a slightly worse version of Jaxen Pearson and his younger brother. And I know, obviously, he's a rookie. I think he has a really high ceiling, so I'm excited to see what he's going to do. In terms of this season, he's pitched 2 games, only really finished one of those games. And during that game, he had like around a 10 ERA. So right now, the pitching isn't coming like how his brother's pitching has been developing along the years. But in terms of hitting, he's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's turned into one of those players where you really just don't want to give him that kind of a pitch. He sees it really well. He knows when it's not a strike, which is something a lot of players struggle with right when they get into the MLW. And I do believe that he has a lot of potential, very high ceiling. I'm feeling B. I just feel like you can't be an all-star and be a C.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Our next player here is Brendan Davenport, who we also haven't seen play this season so far. I don't know if he's going to make it to any of these games. I hear them keep mentioning his name in videos, so we'll see about that. But as of right now, they don't really need his help, and he's been a player that's been pretty tough to develop for them. All right, our next player is Jeremy Adams, the second-year player from the Great Lakes Gators. In my opinion, he's one of the reasons they're winning games. He has a 2.18 ERA. He is 3-1 from the mound, which is pretty impressive. And in my opinion, he's giving Sawyer Bean kind of a run for his money in some series. We saw that one series, not the one against the Cobras, but the one before. I forget who they were playing. Oh, it was the Magic, where Jeremy Adams just took over for that third game because Sawyer Bean was not pitching well. And I really like the way this guy plays. I think he is able to throw a different variety of pitches. He's able to be super accurate on the mound.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's up there with the rest of the league, and he's not putting up any flashy numbers, batting at just around 150, walking just around everyone else with the same amount of plate appearances. But with how good he's become at pitching, as long as he can even just turn into an average hitter, which numbers don't necessarily reflect it, I would put him above average. He's definitely B, borderline A, but I don't think he's A yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's B, but he can make a run for that A. He's probably, out of all these guys, in my opinion, the best player.
Yeah, he's the best B right now. What team is he on again?
Eagles. It's disrespectful. I'm putting that in the video.
Yeah.
All right, the next player we have here is Evan Trackman. He was the 8th overall pick, and he has been the second arm for this team pitching in Game 2s. Now, in those first 2 series, he kind of got blown out in the Game 2s that we saw. There was one out-of-state series against the Diamondbacks where he didn't look too good, but he's turned it around a little bit over this last slate. He was able to win Game 2 against the Wildcats, really create some momentum for that first sweep. In my opinion, he's one of those guys that really, once he gets his control ready and once he starts throwing the ball in the zone more, he's going to be perfectly fine.
Well, I think the question is, was the latter half of the first half of the season enough to push him out of D into C?
Well, how's he hitting?
Pretty below average, although again, I don't think he started great. He's about 125 from the plate, walked about as much as anyone with his amount of plate appearance would. Hasn't seen much. Only 11 plate appearances. That's tied with Kaden Richard on his team. Again, question is, was that performance where he was able to redeem himself, does that push him to C?
In my opinion, no, it doesn't push him to C. I think he is on the verge of becoming a C player. If he pitches like one more good game, I definitely could see that. But right now, we've seen more bad than good out of him. I think that's something that hopefully Trackman can understand. But I also know that he's one of those guys that I think at the end of the season could be like a C to B player.
For sure.
Right now, he's not there yet.
And also, with Evan Trackman being a rookie, he doesn't really have a past for us to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, unfortunately, we are going to have to go D.
Yeah, sorry, Evan. All right, next we have Jimmy Knorp. There's been a lot of talk personally on my channel about his pitching this year. He's 1-3 from the mound, was able to kind of redeem himself in this last series against the Magic. He has a pretty solid ERA though at 2.63. I think he just kind of gets unlucky sometimes with the way his team bats. Personally, he's an amazing leader. He's a great player. Right now, is he an S player? Obviously, it's either A or S. Is he an S player right now?
Yeah, well, it's Jimmy Knorp. Obviously, he has been an S player through a pretty big majority of his career. But yeah, the question is, right now, is he considered that S tier in the league? Numbers-wise, offensively, no, he's not. So far, a lot of plate appearances, batting under 200, and 11 walks isn't all that much considering people should be scared to pitch at him. It's a long-winded way of saying I personally think he is A. When I do think of S, you can't put that many players in the S tier. That's the point of the S tier, and I just don't think he's playing S tier so far.
All right, the next player we have here is Jacob Pishka. Now, me and my brother here are both pretty big fans of Pishka. We think he has a high ceiling. He does swing for the fences, doesn't draw a ton of walks or anything like that. He's one of those guys that, though, can hit a bunch of bombs. He creates momentum for this team. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think he really settles into his role, and his role is to hit bombs. His team is really good on getting a base between Jake Heath and Jimmy Knorp. So when you look back and you're like, Pishka, he doesn't need to do all that much besides field well, which he does. Yeah, I think he's a really good defender and hit bombs, which he has been able to in his career. That being said, C.
I feel like even though Pishka is in C, I feel like he is a better player than Casey Bennett, but they both do different things. They're just, they're at a point where I think Jacob Pishka has a higher ceiling to get to like a B or A range.
Yeah, and look, when there's only 5 tiers and really 4 because S isn't really being used until we get to the big hitters, there's going to be a pretty big discrepancy between each one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so our next player here is Carson Yergaitis. He's a guy that's kind of come out of his shell in this recent year, hopefully following the footsteps of his brother. I like the way he swings the bat. He kind of has a long swing, which isn't good in MLW, but he seems to make it work. And other players who have long swings, like AJ Ackerman, for example, his rookie year was able to really make that work, but, it can be inconsistent.
Yeah, I think he really started as, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but more of a meme player, obviously being the sibling to one of the teammates and someone that they looked for comedic relief, but he's really turned into someone you can use in the rotation and get some kind of production out of. And I do think he'll grow, and I think the Eagles is a good team to be on. Now that they're winning games, they have the ability to play someone like Carson Yergaitis and not necessarily, be scared of losing, especially because he's progressed so much.
Yeah. For me, I feel like just because for me, he's like in between C and D. What's he batting?
143.
143. I think he's still
and only 16 plate appearances, meaning I think in order for him to be a C, he would have to be batting high numbers with only the 16 plate appearances, and he's not. And it's respectable, but again, not a high percentage and also not a lot of looks isn't enough to put him at C.
I agree.
And he doesn't play any defense.
I agree. He's going into D for me as well. All right, next we have Liam Jackson, who did play in a game. It was that last series. For me, I just think Liam Jackson, he's only had 2 plate appearances, so I'm going to go with non-applicable for him. We don't have enough to go off of this year. All right, then we have Brendan Russell from the Pacific Predators. He's a guy who, honestly, I've given a pretty hard time on this channel just because I think that the Predators need some changing when it comes to hitting. This year, he's not batting the best. He is doing what he normally does. I think he's starting to have kind of a slow regression phase, but he's one of the veterans on this team. He used to hit a lot of bombs, and now he's just not really hitting that many more nukes this year. He's just kind of putting the ball into play. Sometimes he strikes out and sometimes he walks.
Yeah, his offensive numbers aren't as bad as I would have assumed them to be, and his walks aren't about as par as you would assume with anyone with those plate appearance numbers. But yeah, nothing's jumping off the board. He does have the 1 home run. I think he's definitely C tier. I mean, but he's just not a D player, not yet.
The next player we have here is Baran Robles, who obviously he's an MVP candidate. He's been insane this year. Pitching-wise, he is just dominating on all levels. He's 5-1 from the mound. He has a .52 ERA. He is insane. I mean, he's just one of those guys that's really hard to stop. And obviously, he's from New York. We didn't know how much he was going to play this year, but he's been there almost every series. So that's got to mean something too. He's really taken over a leadership role, especially because Tommy isn't really having the best season, but he's doing a great job of that.
Yeah, I mean, leads his team in on-base percentage, batting pretty well at .286, has the most walks I've seen out of anyone offensively, of course, has walked the most out of anyone I've seen, and is obviously top 2 pitcher in the league, and that is arguable that he could be 1. So yeah, he is S tier for sure.
S tier 100%. All right, the next player we're talking about here is Kaden Irwin, who has been on this struggling Cobras team, and he's really the only bright spot. He's gone 1-5 from the mound, which isn't good, but he has been pitching lights out. I mean, it just feels like this team cannot get a run to save their lives, and poor Kaden Irwin is really feeling the effects of that. He does have a good ERA, though, at 1.14, and that's something that I think fans need to realize. When it comes to hitting, yes, he's not the best, but he is one of the best pitchers in this league.
Yeah, definitely not the best. 13 plate appearances, 0 hits. But what I will say is obviously an elite pitcher, and his team is not good. I know people like to say that Drew Davis has built some kind of, good hitting rotation. It statistically is untrue. I mean, when you have as good of a player as Kaden Irwin, you should be winning games if you have any kind of offensive support, which they do not, which is why he is not winning games.
But I think he's still A tier, in my opinion, at least.
Oh yeah, A tier.
All right, so our next player here is Daniel Schultz, who is obviously leading his own all-star team. He's been pretty solid this year. I don't think he's having as good of a year as he did last year.
But he's still as reliable as he kind of has always been, especially with that down year. Yeah, he's definitely been able to bounce back, especially starting off slow like the Eagles did. It would have been really easy for him to take himself out of moments. But he didn't, and he's been able to push through that and really, become meaningful to this team.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I feel more comfortable putting him in B.
Yeah, I would say B too. I agree with that. I think he's probably one of the worst players in B, but he's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our next player here is Drew Davis from the Coastal Cobras. Drew Davis, pitching-wise, it's not good, so just a warning. He has won 1 game, lost 2 games, but he has a 15 ERA, which is quite possibly the worst ERA I've ever seen at the deadline. He's just not a good pitcher, and he's putting himself in difficult situations. As for hitting,
3 home runs is impressive, but when you then look at the fact that he's only walked 3 times, it kind of diminishes it. With 32 plate appearances, which is up there with the most in the entire league, batting at 172, obviously it's still Drew Davis. He has a good eye for the ball, but he does not walk ever. He does not like, just walking to the base. He needs to get a hit, and it's super easy to pitch to someone when their goal is to take you deep. You know what I mean? And that they know that. At this point, everyone in the league knows Drew Davis isn't even really trying to hide it. We've seen him swing at some pretty bad pitches. B.
I disagree. I think he's more of a C tier player and the reason I say that is just because obviously he is a two-way player, and I understand that. But with his pitching, you could put almost anyone else in the league at the mound, and they would do just as good as him, if not better. All right, our next player here is Kyle Schultz, Mr. Commissioner. He did not make the All-Star team this year. In my opinion, he's still the best leader in the league. He does a lot of things well. He does a lot of things right. Yes, his numbers aren't amazing this year. Yes, he doesn't pitch this year. but still, he is finding a way to stay relevant in the league after 15 years.
No, yeah, and like you said, fantastic leader, has the ability to home runs, is walking with 12 walks this year. Obviously on the lower side of batting percentage, they've just gotten the best of him a lot this year, even with his team succeeding when they have won some series. He still just doesn't necessarily play great. That being said, I feel like he's probably at the lower end of B just because of who he is.
All right, so the next player here is Trey Flood. He's an all-star. Now, they got him to be the second arm of this team, and he hasn't done an amazing job of fulfilling that. He is 1-2 from the mound with a 5.50 ERA. Don't get me wrong, but what he has done is been hitting extremely well. So that's something that he's kind of fit into this role of now he's more of a hitter. They have Colm to fill in for that second arm if Flood doesn't work out.
Oh yeah, he's one of the better hitters in the league. 2 home runs, leads his team in on-base percentage. Really efficient, which is funny because I do feel like when he started in this league for the Diamondbacks, I felt like he was definitely a second arm, and they were trying to see how good he could be offensively. And while I would still trust him to win a game if we needed him to on the mound, he is really transformed into more of an offensive player.
Yeah, for me, he's a B-tier player.
I agree.
All right, the next player here is Trevor Bonham, who we haven't seen this year. I actually don't know what's going on with him, but for now, we're going to put him in non-applicable. All right, the next player here is Matt Carlington. He played in the last series. I think he played enough for me to rank him as a player. I got to see some interesting things out of him. I think he is kind of a D player as of right now, kind of coming back, getting into the group of things. He can, in my opinion, improve to a C tier player. I just wish I saw more of him because I think he has such high potential.
Yeah, definitely. Let's say we were to postpone making this video for like another month. If we just saw one more series and he played good, I would have no problem with pushing him into C.
All right, so our next player here is Dallas Allen. He is this team's ace. He's 4-2 on the year with a 2.30 ERA. He is not going to fall off anytime soon, so get used to it. And when it comes to hitting, I think he's pretty decent as well.
Yeah, he's not just decent. I mean, he's fantastic. Batting .320 from the plate. He has a home run. He has the ability to walk with 10. I think once you hit double-digit walks at this point in the season, when you are an active rotational player on offense, it means you're good on the plate. And second on his team, on on-base percentage behind Landon Urquides. So yeah, when you're one of the best players at both of your positions, you are obviously going to be up there on the tier list.
In my opinion, he is an S tier player.
Yes.
All right, so the next player here is Ty Fresnick, going into his second year with Pat Ballman. He is fairly inconsistent, started off the season pretty strong, and from that point, just hasn't really been amazing. His numbers are decent, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, batting over 200, I think that's really the line where you can decide if they're doing good or not from the plate. Consistently wise, 33 plate appearances is a decent amount, so he's definitely one of these. He's stuck in the rotation for sure. He had that home run, right under 10 walks in the season, and he's in the 40% range of on-base percentage, which is, again, pretty good. I think when he started the season, I was really expecting him to go deep a little bit more. I thought he had a shot at, being up there in home runs by the end of the year, and now it kind of looks like he hasn't hit one in a bit. I think he's probably the best player in C tier.
I agree. I put him C tier. All right, next we have Captain Jack Agner. He actually hit 2 home runs this season, which is a better season than he's had before. I still don't think he is a C tier player because we have a lot of good players in that tier, but I definitely think he has improved from last year. Last year was kind of a disaster for him. He was pretty good in 2023, the year that they won the World Series, and it feels like he's getting back to that.
Yeah, I would agree. He has 2 hits on the year, which are both home runs, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, he is only swinging for the fences, and like I've said earlier, that is his role. I feel like it's obviously not luck when you hit a home run, but I don't think anyone would put Jack Agner up in the top home run hitters. So I do agree he doesn't really belong in the C tier. But that being said, he is a pretty valuable piece to this Magic team, obviously being the leader and giving them juice whenever he does hit those home runs. But again, still D.
D tier. All right, the next player is Chris Cheatham, who has been playing phenomenally this year from the plate. He is a great leader, batting over 400. He's just one of those guys that right now he's doing an amazing job of getting on base. He's really helping this team out a ton. It wasn't really his role for this year, right? He was supposed to be one of those guys that maybe you can play, maybe you can't play him. I think he's been underrated because he was in the 5th hitter slot and he was putting himself there, but now he's one of this team's best players. So maybe an adjustment to the lineup needs to be made if it hasn't been made already.
Yeah, well, he's been elite when it comes to getting on base, whether that's walking or just getting hits. Obviously batting 40% and 16 walks on the year, which is very high up there when it comes to the entire league, and he is getting plenty of plate appearances. I mean, he's something that the majority of the teams in the league, if not all, could use right now, which is just very dependable and obviously has the power to take it deep.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's an A-tier player this year.
I think he has possibly shot himself up in the A-tier.
All right, our next player here is Jaxen Pearson, who has been fairly consistent. He obviously missed the first series, which they could have used him for. He's on a struggling Cobras team. I really like the draft pick when they selected him, but as of right now, I'm kind of scratching my head on the type of player that he's going to be in the MLW.
I mean, yeah, batting 167 again, anything under 200 in my opinion, you're starting to have a problem unless you're doing something else really well, which he is not. Again, 167 on base percentage. When you already have a team where Drew Davis is leading your team in plate appearances and only has 3 walks, and Justin Esch has 0 walks, it's not a head scratcher as to why this team is not winning games. I agree with you. I like the pick, and I think he has some good potential, but he's definitely struggling with the team he has around him. As to his role, I don't really know if he's ready for.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we put him in C? Do we put him in D? I'm leaning towards D, but
it's got to be D because I see guys like Frenznick, and Pishka in C, and I would choose both those guys over him, and I do think he belongs in D when I see the crowd around him.
I agree, but one good series can put him back into C tier. All right, so the next player here is Sawyer Bean. He had one rough series when it came to pitching. He has a 3-2 record from the mound. When it comes to his offense and hitting too, he is pretty solid. He's one of the best leaders, in my opinion, in the league. I don't know too much about his personality. When it comes to like the MLW community, he is pretty reserved in that space. So, yeah, I like him as a player. I think he brings energy. I think there's a reason they're winning games.
I mean, he leads the team in home runs. He gets on base a lot. He's batting 278, which is approaching the 300 range, which is where I could consider you elite with the amount of plate appearances that you have. And obviously, beast on the mound, great leader. He's A tier, in my opinion. I think he's definitely above the B tier. He's A tier, and if he continues to progress, could you see him in the S tier just strictly off of he has a great pitch?
All right, our next guy here is TC3, who I actually had a very wrong prediction. If you watch my offseason videos, I was predicting that TC3 was going to have a really good year this year. He was going to come back and just start seeing the ball really well, and that just hasn't been the case for me. In my opinion, he's a D-tier player.
He's yet to log a hit, and he is last on his team when it comes to plate appearances, so clearly that has played a factor in the amount of time he has played. But he does have the ability to kind of stop putting effort in whenever he's not playing good, and that does affect the team. It affects the team a lot. You've seen the team. I've said it before, the Mallards can't really sweep because once they win 2, they kind of goof off in the third one. Whether it's Colm and TC3 and maybe a few other players.
I wouldn't say goof off. I would say stop trying. But yeah, I agree. I definitely think he's a...
Yeah, they almost get frustrated or they don't take it as seriously. And I would... Yeah, I mean, the fact that he hasn't logged a hit...
not good.
That's deep.
No bueno. All right, we're just going to knock some guys out of the way here. Curdy has not played, and I don't know if he will this season. Ty Smith, frankly, I don't really know why he's on this tier list. I did download this tier list from dark.mlw, and it was a 2024 one that I just kind of adjusted. So maybe that's why he's on here, but I don't know if he's coming back to MLW. And Blade Walker, comment down below if you know what's going on with Blade Walker. I think somebody reminded me, but honestly, I forget. I don't know if he's coming back next year. I don't know if he's retired. I think if he retired, there would be some official post from the MLW, but there wasn't, so he might be coming back. But yeah, he has not played this year either. All right, the next player we have here is Cole Kwiatkowski, possibly the only bright spot other than Kaden Irwin on this Coastal Cobras team. Despite pretty bad circumstances, he's able to remain as a pretty decent hitter on this team. He puts the ball in play pretty well. He's able to draw walks. We've seen what he can do. Obviously, right now, he's not the best fielder, but he has baseball experience. In my opinion, he's one of the better rookies from this draft.
He's hitting at around 312, which is really good. Same amount of plate appearances as TC3, fun fact. And he is leading his team in on-base percentage, obviously. Again, no offense. Not a huge brag because it is the Cobras, but I think he is a bright spot in a team that has been struggling. I can't put him in the B tier yet.
I agree.
Just hasn't played enough. Obviously, only 18 plate appearances as a rookie is okay, but it's not like he's played every game. So,
all right, our next guy here is Jason Chadwick, who has remained pretty consistent ever since he's joined the Gators. He's one of those guys to me that is helping this team win games in the best way possible. Now, he doesn't have the greatest numbers, don't get me wrong, but he's still a good culture guy. I think he's actually a pretty underrated fielder too. I've heard a lot of criticisms about him. He was a bad fielder with the Magic, but he's gotten better, and that's something that I think a lot of fans are forgetting.
Yeah, of course not getting a lot of hits, but he has the ability to take you deep, and he's not the worst fielder in the world. Not a D player.
C tier.
C tier.
I agree. All right, John, hold that. All right, so our next player here is Jaxen Pearson, who has had a pretty interesting year up to this point. He's actually been in a pitching duel with teammate Patrick Ballman, and they're still, I think, kind of deciding who that number one arm is going to be. They've both played in 5 games, and Jaxen Pearson's record is 2-2. So on the pitching side, he's doing pretty well, has a 1.45 ERA. He's been solid there. As for the hitting,
statistically, he's been a very, very below average hitter. Obviously 2 home runs, but those, according to the stats, are his only hits of the year, which is clearly not good, especially for someone who's going to end up being in that 30-plus plate appearance range going into the All-Star break. And we've seen it way higher for him in the past. I don't really know what's happening this year.
Yeah, that is a good point. It is kind of interesting. I think he's getting on base and doing a good job of that. I'm kind of in between the A to B range because on one hand, I think he's another one of those two-way players that are pretty solid. I think he is going to pick it up. The numbers aren't good, but if you play the numbers game, that's where you get into trouble on this tier list. We're not doing this based on the numbers. You could do that AI generated. You could do that calculated in different ways. In my opinion, he's an A tier player, even though he doesn't have the numbers.
No, absolutely. And again, I know this is a tier list for this season, but we know what he has the ability to do on the plate. So you can definitely look at his offensive numbers and just assume it's a slump offensively.
All right, our next player here is going to be Aiden Richard from the Great Lakes Gators. He's a guy that really hasn't found a huge role in this league up to this point, and he hasn't even played this year, really. He showed up to, I think, 1 or 2 series, but hasn't gotten much playing time. So for this reason, he is going to be non-applicable. All right, our next player here is Brendan Szerlag from the Coastal Cobras. He's been a guy that I think has been improving ever since he had been traded to the Cobras. I wasn't a huge fan of his game, and I think I kind of resented him because he was traded for Sawyer Bien in a trade that I thought was pretty unfair. However, in my opinion, he's doing as good of a job as he can despite not really playing that much.
Yeah, he's yet to record a hit this year. With 22 plate appearances is a lot. Not a terrible defender, but he doesn't really give you much, and he does not pitch. Is it crazy for me to say D?
I don't think that is crazy. Now, our next player here is Stephen McGlade. Not too much to talk about here. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen McGlade's game, but obviously he did pitch in that one game. They did lose the game. It was Evan Porter was out, so they had to pitch Stephen McGlade. He's also hitting this year as well.
Yeah, only 3 plate appearances, so and not a hit. We haven't really seen much. Wasn't able to record a walk in either of those 3. So, I mean, he's played enough to consider a D, in my opinion.
I agree.
And we know what he is.
Ryan Kracht is just trying to find him a role on this team, but I think it might be time for Stephen McGlade to find a new home. All right, our next player on this list is AJ Ackerman, who just hit a home run in his last series. He's one of these guys that has been pretty inconsistent. We've seen it time and time again. He has Diamondbacks coming back. He doesn't really hit the ball too much, but when he does, it's usually a nuke. In my opinion, he's been decent this year, definitely better than the sophomore season, but nowhere near what we saw from him as a rookie.
Saylor.
Yeah, his batting average is about 130. Doesn't walk, but he does take balls deep. 2 home runs this year.
Great
I
pitch,
feel
74,
anywhere from
good
C to D. I think when he's at his best, he's definitely a C player. But when he's not hitting home runs, he's not helping you much.
I agree. I'm leaning towards C. I think he's one of the worst players on that list. He kind of just reminds me of like a new age Brendan Russell. They both are longer players. They're decent in the field, not amazing, and they do like to hit bombs. So AJ Ackerman, C. All right, so our next player is Preston Cole, who has been a really good hitter this season, been a good pitcher. Obviously, he missed a couple of games, which permitted him from the All-Star game. But when it comes to pitching, in my opinion, he's pretty decent. He has a 4 ERA with 6 Ks on the season. Him and Trey Flood are going back in a pitching battle.
Yeah, he's batting 33% from the plate with a decent amount of plate appearances, even though he's only appeared in 6 games, as well as a home run. Very good defensively as well. I feel B, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a B player as well. All right, so our next player here is Alec Warda, who has had a bit of a slow season so far. Obviously, the Predators, they're not really going up to expectations this year. I predict them to miss the playoffs, and Alec Warda is a huge part of that. It depends. Is he going to be drawing walks like he normally does? Is he going to be fielding well? In my opinion, his fielding this season has not been that good, and his hitting this season has just been okay.
Yeah, definitely below average hitting and is not walking, which is something that you like to see someone with that kind of speed get on base. He isn't drawing walks. He has 1 home run, but he's batting at 118. So and again, like you said, he's been kind of sloppy defensively in the field. He's dropped some, and he's just kind of misjudged some of those rollers. I think he's a C player for now.
I agree. He's honestly leaning towards that D territory. He's closer to D than he is to B, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so our next player here is Pat Ballman, probably the most controversial all-star pick of this season, just because his season has kind of been all over the place. When it comes to pitching, he started off strong. He had a 2-0 record, but has lost 2 since. And he has a 2.13 ERA, which is pretty good. But a lot of people have been criticizing him for how much he has been walking people lately. And honestly, a lot of people, including me, thought that he was going to have a better start to his sophomore season.
Yeah, well, he did have a good start, and obviously has struggled a little bit in the pitching realm. But offensively, batting 260, is tied for the lead on his team with home runs. Isn't necessarily walking, but I think when you're batting, 250 or above, you don't necessarily need to draw those walks because he's getting consistent hits, and he obviously can take it deep. He's progressed really well offensively, and he's getting a lot of plate appearances. He's over the 30 threshold.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like that he changed up his swing too. It looks like it's doing him better. In my opinion, he is a B tier player. In my opinion, he's a B tier player, but he's close to C here for me.
Really? Okay.
But I do think right now he's a B tier player.
Yeah, and I think he was also really close to being an A player if he just didn't have those two.
Bad series,
if he could be consistent, he is an A player.
Yeah. All right, so our next player here is Nick Saylor, who we really only got to see 1 series from. In my opinion, I saw good things. I thought at the beginning he was a little bit slow, kind of getting used to things, and then in the middle of that series, he started really picking things up. He hit a huge home run. I know they didn't win that series, but I could see him being a huge help. I think he's better than Casey Bennett, in my opinion, and honestly, he might be a better hitter than Pishka.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think he's one of those players that can really help a competing team. Obviously, super good in the field defensively.
Really good base runner, too.
Super good base runner. Yeah, he's fast, and if he can be consistent from the plate, which he was 33%, which is, good. In that 1 series he's played, he could be a huge help. I think I can't put him any higher than C just because it's the 1 series. But if he were to play this entire season, I would be super comfortable putting him in B.
All right, so the next player on this list is Dustin Staggs. He's another guy that we've been seeing kind of in some Rookie of the Year conversations. I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. He's not super dynamic. He does do a lot of walking, which is a good thing for me. And in my opinion, he has a super high potential. I'm excited to see him pitch. He's a great fielder. You can tell he has a great feel for the game. What do you think?
22 walks speaks for itself offensively. Granted, he is batting 10%, which is definitely near the bottom of the entire league. But super good defensively in the field. I mean, you can just see it in how he moves and how he can scoop up balls and throws it over to first, and he gets on base. He just isn't really consistent when it comes to hitting. But I don't know. In my opinion, I think I probably C.
C? Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I wanted to say B, but he's just not doing enough offensively.
So the next player here we have is John Paul Gunn from the Metro Magic. Obviously, he missed last series, but they did have Grant Miller, which is pretty big for them. And pitching-wise, he's been okay, not really good. He does have a 12 ERA, and I know that doesn't sound very good, but he got put in some bad situations. So, in my opinion, he's a great hitter. He can really see the ball super well. He hits nukes. He's able to walk. He's just super versatile from the plate.
I mean, again, offensively, he has been very consistent. And then, only 2 series played, but he's batting 30%. He hit a home run. And I actually am kind of shocked. He is up there in walking numbers on his own team while still missing a series. I think he's tied second. So really consistent offensively, definitely helping them a lot, especially when he'll play again.
Yeah, I agree. For right now, to me, he's a C player, but he's close to that B range. All right, so our next player here is Grant Miller. Now, Grant has just been one of those players where I think he's played his last series for the Magic. He said in that last series that, we never really know when we're going to see him because he has that second kid on the way. For me, it would be disrespectful to put Grant Miller any lower than A. The way he's able to see the ball, he's just an incredible player. He's also an amazing pitcher as well. It sucks because I don't think we're going to be able to be at a point where we see him in an S range in this league. There's just not enough time for his schedule where I think he'll turn into like a Robles or a Kracht or anything. But I do think that he had the potential to be one of the all-time greats if he really played in this league for longer.
No, yeah, I agree with everything you said.
All right, so the next player here is Brendan Jorgensen. He's one of those guys to me that is just able, obviously he's a veteran. He has been in the league for a while. He had a really, really good start to his career, and it's kind of just been going down. I like him a lot as a player, but for this season, I just don't think we can rank him super high.
No, yeah, I mean, he's not batting well. He's walking, but that's really the only positive thing he is doing. I think C, and that's kind of being generous with how he's playing.
Yeah. Our next player here is Ryan Kracht. What is there to say about this guy? I mean, he's an S tier player. It's just one of those things where every single year you kind of know what you're getting from him.
No, yeah, I mean, he, 3-time MVP for a reason, still playing like it. In fact, really the only reason why the Predators are even still in it at this point. And like you've said in the past, it's going to be tough for them to be able to turn around with that upcoming schedule. But if they do, it's going to be because of him.
All right, so our next player here is Jake Sullivan. I have my opinions on Jake Sullivan. I think he is the best rookie in this class. I think some people are underrating him. Personally, I just think some people are underrating him. He is able to hit the ball decently, but what really comes through in his game is his pitching. He won the first games and the only games for the Diamondbacks in those first 2 slates. That's something that is huge, and that's something that there's not enough people talking about, in my opinion. Obviously, Jimmy Knorp is a great teacher, but Jake Sullivan has been able to follow through with that. He has a 2 ERA. He has done an amazing job of striking people out. I mean, he has 29 Ks so far this season. It's just insane.
No, yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm seeing as a negative is his walk numbers. He's kind of pushing Drew Davis territory when it comes to walking. But when you're batting 33%, that's really all you can ask for. And like you said, his pitching is really good. I'm feeling B. I think he's right on that level with Brady Pearson.
I agree. I think he, right now, out of all these players, though, if you take a look at all of them, is the best player in B. All right, so the next player on this list is Carter Richard. I like him personally. I think he has great potential in this league. I also do think that he is not at the level yet where I can call him like a certified MLW player. There's probably a lot of guys who don't even know who this player is, but in my opinion, he's a D tier player.
Yep, I agree. He just hasn't really shown enough, and he hasn't played too much either. So.
Yeah, he has a lot of potential, though, so we'll see. All right, so our next player here is Levi Fleer. Obviously, I didn't think that he deserved to win Rookie of the Year last year, but he did have an insane playoffs. This season, he is actually playing pretty well, in my opinion. A borderline all-star. Yes, he didn't make the all-stars, but he can definitely turn it around. He's that piece to me that I think if he really, really steps it up and plays to his fullest potential, that this Predators team could be pretty scary. But as of right now, yes, he's playing well. I don't think he is playing up to his potential.
Yeah, and I think the reason is because he likes to swing for the fences, and right now he does not have any home runs. and he also does not walk at all. And when you're hitting home runs, that's all right, and when you're not, it's not great. He's still batting .250, so not a problem yet. But he has to watch that.
In my opinion, he's a B tier player right now.
I think C to B. I mean,
I gotta go B for him. I just think C is disrespectful. Seeing the guys that are in this list, I can't put Levi Fleer in C. All right, so our next player here is Evan Porter, who's had a pretty interesting rookie season. He's been hyped up in a lot of ways. In my opinion, he is not the best hitter. That goes without saying, though. I just think that he should probably stay off of hitting, even though this team will have opportunities for good hitters to go in. I just don't think Evan Porter is really built for that. In terms of pitching, though, he's been pretty good. He has a 1 ERA, which is super solid as well. Also, he has 15 Ks in just 2 games pitched, which is really impressive. I think he's really able to paint that zone. His arm slot is weird for hitters. I just hope he can keep it up.
Yeah, I think what he's done is C territory.
I agree.
He's been impressive, and he's also shown a little bit of weakness there, obviously a little offensively, but I mean, it's definitely solid. All
right, so our next player here is Sean Hornberger. He has been interesting this season. That is for sure. A lot of people are already saying he's a bust. I don't believe he's a bust. He didn't make last series, so obviously that didn't help. And yes, he had a bad first game when it came to pitching. He has a 24 ERA. That's probably the worst in the league. But when it comes to hitting, is it much better? Not really.
Also not really. He's doing a nice job walking. I think he's controlling what he can control. He just hasn't really been able to find the ball yet offensively. And again, if you can't, the best thing you can do is just be patient and try to walk, which he has been able to do. That being said, he's a D.
Yeah, he is a D. Listen, to all the people that watch the other leagues and stuff like that, I understand we've seen him do great things. This is based off of what we've seen from MLW. All right, so our next player here is Andy Durand. The last time we did this list 2 years ago is when he took a year off, and now he's back. He's playing. Last season was actually pretty good for him. I believe he did make the All-Stars, and he was hitting super well. And this season, it has just not been good. A lot of Cobras are collapsing, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of adds to the list of offensive players like Szerlag that have not been able to produce. Not as bad as Szerlag, but he's just not walking, and he's not hitting home runs. So, I mean, he's a D player this year.
I agree. All right, so our next player here is Rudy Ramirez. It's a very similar situation to Andy Durand, actually. He's one of these guys. He's shown potential. He's shown that he can hit the ball, and he is not doing a great job of it this year. I like him as a player. I think he's actually a very underrated fielder when he goes out there, and I think Kracht needs to play more out there.
He's batting .250, but only has 1 walk on the year. And again, has not seen all that much. They're not necessarily playing him in the normal rotation. Do I think he scratches C? I think you might be able to make a case, but I do believe he fits in the D spot more as of right now.
Yeah, I agree.
That's fine.
All right, guys, so this is our tier list for this season. There's probably a couple things in here that we could change around if we talked about it more, but just off of just looking at these players, watching them the entire season, this is what we came up with. So this video took a really long time to edit. It took a really long time to put together. So if y'all could do me a favor and just subscribe, comment below what you thought of the video, what you thought of our rankings, and like the video. It would mean a whole heck of a lot just to keep this thing going. This is really the biggest video we've ever made, so I really appreciate it. Thank y'all for watching, and peace.